All right. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. It is Firearms Friday, and hey, the news is good this morning. Um, the DOJ under Pam Bondi's direction has actually made some arrests. We're going to get to those in detail as we go through it this morning, and we're going to see how this works out. So let me lead with I owe Pam a little bit of an apology. Now, 3 arrests does not a complete recovery make. Um, there's we still need to see a lot more work out of Red Flag Barbie before we completely forgive her for essentially a year of inaction and a year of inaction and repeated, consistent, predictable, unforced errors. But these are big wins. So we're going to start with the official word, and you'll have bear with me a little bit. I'm playing with a new toy this morning. Frankly, ChatGPT just went through such a substantial upgrade that I lost a little time just exploring the upgrade this morning. Here's the beauty of it. I think I might actually do a whole live stream on this later, but ChatGPT now has clickable links in the drop-down menus. I don't know how much you guys have used it, but if you're working on a project with ChatGPT, until basically this morning, as far as I know, you say, okay, I want to do X, Y, and Z. It'll go, okay, here's a plan, here's a structured idea set. Now, next steps, would you like to, and give you 3 options. And you had to type in, okay, I want to go with option A or something like that. Now, those are just buttons that you click. That seems like such a small thing when you say it like that. But when it turns into, oh, now I can click a button instead of even a dozen keystrokes dozens of times through a project, that's huge. And this is the part that I'm kind of experimenting with for the show this morning and why I'm explaining it now. It can put that in PowerPoint presentations. So just to give you guys a little behind the scenes there, I've got a PowerPoint presentation queued up this morning that is not. I'm going to be using these going forward. I use these often. I use something like this often. See, it's not an interesting presentation. This is not what we would call a good PowerPoint presentation. Normally, there's no way I would show this to you guys because these slides are just so basic and ugly. But here's what was really cool. In the course of doing the show setup this morning, this is something I sometimes do with show setups generally. I pulled up X because X is actually, in my experience, when you're looking for news clips, X is better than YouTube or Google for finding clips. So there's a video clip that I might want to use. There's
Making Love Great Again.
Actually, okay, let's play that one.
Hey, sexy. It's me, Donald Trump. Since it's Valentine's Day, I decided to do a little something special for you.
That's hilarious. Okay, but anyway, so I'll click on them using my, I'll control click on them, and then what I get is I have like a dozen tabs open, right? That doesn't mean that those tabs are in any kind of coherent, usable order. But what I was able to do this morning, just on a little experiment on a lark, I opened up a shitload of tabs with video clips that I want to use for the show this morning in no particular order, just in the order that they came across the feed. And then I bookmarked all those tabs in Chrome, opened up the bookmark manager to copy that list of bookmarks, and then I just dropped all those links directly into ChatGPT and said, here's what I need. And ChatGPT took all those clips and put them in order. See if I can find where it did that, because I did a lot of work on there this morning. Okay, here it's over here. It took all those clips and put them in an intelligible order. Here. No, that's not it either. Anyway, it did it. It took all the clips and put them into an intelligible order. And then I said, okay, now, instead of me wasting time like I just did, and I apologize to you guys for that bit of dead air, scrolling up and down, thousands of lines of text from our conversation this morning, put those clips into a show-ready PowerPoint presentation. And ChatGPT was able to do that, putting them into, I'll show you the PowerPoint again, so that I have all those clips in the order that they make sense based on the narrative structure we're discussing. And now there's a big play button right here. And when I click on that play button, it's gonna open that clip up over here. And then I should be able to click the play button. It opens the clip. And okay, it's opening the clip somewhere. Now it's not doing the thing it's supposed to do. There it is. And then it opens the clip over on this other tab. And I can start sharing that with you. And boom.
Yesterday.
So, yesterday, Pam Bondi arrested. Pam Bondi had Nikema Williams, I think it is, arrested. And I love the timeline we're in right now, guys, because as soon as it was announced that that Nikema Williams had been arrested, this shitbird, who I think is William Kelly or Kelly Williams, but this guy, you've seen his face. We've talked about him. He put out this video.
I went into a church with Nikema Armstrong and I protested these white supremacists. The pastor of the church is a fucking ICE leader in the city.
As you can see, all these pretend Christians, all these comfortable white people who are living lavish, comfortable lives while children are dragged into.
Okay, this guy's a psychopath. This guy, I don't want to spend too much time on his military career, but there seems to be a lot of, because I don't have a copy of his DD-214 in front of me, but apparently this guy was who says I was a combat infantry veteran. Okay, that was my first red flag. I was a combat infantry veteran. No, nobody says that. Nobody says it like that. You say you're a combat veteran. Okay? So you're a combat veteran. Apparently this particular shitbird was a 42 Alpha, which is an administrative clerk. He was an HR rep, right? And also apparently, and again, I don't have his DD-214 in front of me. I don't know for sure, but the buzz on the internet is that this guy was dishonorably discharged from the military, and in his 4-year career, he was thrown out. Served from 2007 to 2011, which is, that amusingly, he went in after I was already in, and he got out before I got out. I'm pretty sure I didn't run into this guy. That's probably for the best. I'd love to meet him on the mat, though. Wouldn't that be fun? But anyway.
So he concentration camps. So, Pam Bondi, you want to come and arrest me? You want to come and give me charges? So be it.
Yeah. And right there, that the end of it right there. Pam Bondi, you want to come and arrest me or to give me charges? I want you to note, guys, this tweet is from Pam Bondi. This is from Pam Bondi's official account. She just says, okay, check. Because shortly after he put this video out, he was in fact arrested. So that's from the Attorney General making that comment. So let's see let's pull up the next clip. Oh yeah, this thing's working smoothly. They got Miss Chunky Britches here with her. They had to put 2 pair of handcuffs on her. Aaron Olson asks, did an acorn shoot at him? I don't know if y'all remember that particular story. I remember covering it on the air. So that's Chantel Allen, who was one of the rioters who attacked the church She faffoed indeed, Crackshot. You are 100% correct there. And we are amused that ooh, Doodle Dad, she a big ghetto hoe. The future's so bright, I gotta wear shades. Oh, yeah. So, you know what? I'm a big boy, but I do love the fat jokes when they're at the correct expense, right? So they got her. Now, this woman is apparently part of the school board there or something of the sort. I'm not entirely clear on that detail. But the memes that are coming out are, of course, just delicious. Here you've got Nakima Armstrong being perp walked. There you go. And this is the woman that organized the whole thing. Now, we know Nakima from Black Lives Matter riots. This woman is she's basically one of those that stepped in when Obama went from community organizing to being the president with apparently nothing in between. I know he was a senator or a House rep or whatever it was he was for 30 seconds before he was magically appointed the president. But Sergeant Major asked us, that's a good question. That is a good question. You know what? Maybe she had him with her. You know, if you're a big chunky professional agent provocateur and you know that you're going to have 2 pair of handcuffs on, maybe toting around your own set just in case you get your dumbass arrested by only one cop that doesn't have 2 pair with him is just good forward thinking. And that's what progressives do, right? Good forward thinking. Solid, Sergeant Major. So that's 3 scalps. That's 3 big important scalps. So Nakima Armstrong, that's a major important scalp because she's obviously the logistical head of this particular snake, right? She's the one that's organizing. Let me back that up. She's one of many who are organizing these activities. So as we've detailed many times in the past, this is a rhetorical trap that conservatives get caught in that hampers their credibility, especially when you're trying to speak to someone who is generally a normie, doesn't understand what's going on, isn't plugged in, isn't actively following the news cycle, et cetera, and especially when you run up against talking heads on major news outlets and the like. Forgive me, it's dribbling outside, and when I came into the studio, I got some raindrops on my glasses. Anyway, so when we talk about paid protesters, and I'll keep this kind of short because we've covered it in detail more times in the past. When we talk about paid protesters, the attack line to delegitimize that claim that is often used by lefties in order to discredit your claim in the face of the normies. You're right. We're like God and the devil here fighting over the souls in the middle. You know, one of us is going to win the argument. Sometimes the argument is won by showing them, you know, boobies and cakes and stacks of cash. Sometimes the argument is won by showing them, you know, there is value in being a good person and doing things for the right reasons. Right. And then somebody in the middle is gonna be at war with themselves internally. Ooh, do I like being a good guy or do I like boobies? That's a tough call. And you know, it's difficult to really get it across sometimes. My man, you can do both. You just have to do it the right way. Well, so when your arguments are getting discredited, it's because the claim that the less informed but generally conservative right-wing people will make is because they've heard people talk about there being paid protesters and even seen evidence that protesters are getting paid, they incorrectly extrapolate that out to mean that all the people who are protesting and rioting are being paid to do so. That is not the case. There are what we call agents provocateur or compensated anarchists. Patrick, you'll appreciate that reference. I really like that term, compensated anarchist, to describe people like this. She is paid by NGOs, and this is very, very important for this whole discussion. That means there is foreign money involved. Yes, the majority of NGO funding comes from U.S. taxpayer dollars. However, the majority of that funding was cut off by DOGE with the elimination of USAID, and that's very, very good. But it has always been the case that NGOs were not 100% funded by U.S. taxpayer money. Not all NGOs are CIA operations. Many of them, most of them, also collect money from foreign affiliates. And that can be as simple as you've got an NGO that's ostensibly a, say, Save the Whales campaign. They may get 90% of their money from the U.S. government through block grants, tax subsidies, et cetera, but they do fundraise globally. And what that means is if even, let's say one British citizen, for example, is the only person who ever made a donation to a particular NGO, legally, that means that this woman is funded by a foreign actor. Even if it wasn't a government or a foreign instituted NGO, if the NGO that funds her got even a red cent from a single non-U.S. person under any circumstance, now you're talking about a person who is connected to an international organization conducting operations against the interest of the American people. My point here is, legally, Nikema Armstrong is an international terrorist. She is heading up a color revolution, or at least she's in the upper chain of command of a color revolution that is being conducted against the United States of America. And this is a new tactic. Barging into churches. Now, let's be very clear about what that means too. They went in and interrupted a church service. That means a few very important things logistically, strategically, tactically. That means that they took the time to identify the schedule, to figure out when the people were going to be there, right? They didn't just show up randomly, right? It's not like they showed up in the middle of the afternoon on a Tuesday. No, they waited until the service started, based on the schedule, knowing when the service would start, to guarantee maximum impact. What does that sound like? Gee, I wonder if if a young man who thought he should have had a vagina decided that he wanted to murder a bunch of children in a church, what do you think one of the first planning steps would be to make that happen? I imagine he'd take the time to figure out exactly when there was likely to be the largest number of targets in that particular target-rich environment. So you've got these people with the logistics and strategic layer where they are identifying the schedule, planning an operation in advance, and going to the church to disrupt it. Okay, they didn't shoot anybody. They didn't kill anybody. That's adorable. You've seen the images, though. You've seen the video. I'll go back to that first video we looked at, and I'll run it for you without the sound on, so we can look at some stuff going on here. I'm gonna skip ahead a little bit. I'm not so interested in what he has to say. I'm interested in this. Look at these people. one of the lines, excuse me, one of the lines that we heard out of Brad Davis says, Adrenochrome Pam. Yeah. Brad, you tuned in late. You missed all my red flag Barbie jokes at the beginning of the show. we're not fans of Pam Bondi here generally, but we are willing to extend grace where it's due, and she did take the right actions here. Oh God, it's already after 7:50. I'm gonna have to start wrapping this one up because I got a gig in Augusta and a gig in South Carolina today, so I'm gonna have to get down the road shortly and try to dodge all the ice on the road. I don't give a shit about ICE agents. In fact, I probably look like one when I'm driving, being a white boy in a gunmetal gray SUV. Come get some, boys. Anyway. So this nut job, this what's he call himself? The crazy farmer or whatever. Nakima Armstrong made the claim when she was first interviewed after the incident. Oh, we went in there and we sat down in the pews and we went in there and joined the service. And then when it came up, bullshit. Honey, we have video. We've seen what you did. You went in screaming bullshit bumper sticker taglines. And guys, the bumper stickers. These people raised their hands up and were screaming, "Hands up, don't shoot." They just completely missed it, right? I think one of my favorite memes I've seen out of this so far is a photograph of a little boy crying. And I hate for all those words to come together. One of my favorite, little boy crying. But it's a photograph of a little boy crying and kind of snuggling up against his daddy because he's scared as all this is going on in the church, right? And it was shared by, there's this commentator, I don't know what his name is, but he does the whole goth face paint with the guy liner. He's got the big black X on his cheek. But he was commenting on it. I wish I knew the guy's name, give him credit for it. But he showed the image and said, when people ask me what radicalized you, I'm going to show them this. This is what radicalized me. I'm like, yeah, I mean, I'd say I kind of get that, except my moment was probably 20 years ago. But yeah, that should do it. That's one of those, yeah, that should do it. If you weren't already radicalized to the right, to the patriot, if you weren't already dedicated to the proposition, as it were, then maybe you should have been. Now, being Firearms Friday, I've spent too much time on this and I can't linger for too long this morning, so maybe I'll just have to come back and do a pop-up tomorrow or later today when I get back from the gigs. There's been some video circulating of a young man who's standing out in the streets in Minnesota and Minneapolis, big red beard, and he's got an AR, right? And there's been some criticism of him from some right-wing pundits about, this is escalation, et cetera, et cetera. And you've seen the lefties push back. Like I said, it's Firearms Friday, so I wanted to touch on this one, running out of time. Patrick says his name is Jake Monroe. Okay. Jake Monroe, totally based. Jake Monroe is the guy with the goth paint and the guy liner and the black X. Gotcha. Thank you, Patrick. So yeah, Jake Monroe, weird looking dude, good hot takes. Maybe he'll be the new Styx Hexenhammer since Styx got himself dishonored by personal activity, shall we say. Not that he's fallen off the radar. So we don't know the guy's name with red beard and the rifle. But there's been a lot of lefty accounts that, look at this. The conservatives have given up on everything. Even they've flipped completely on everything. Even now, the Second Amendment. No. No, you're not wrong. You're a fucking liar, which means you're wrong and you know it and you're doing it on purpose. Because the complaint there is not, this dude's out in public with a rifle. I absolutely support his Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms. That's not what's in controversy here. The fact is, he's standing out there with a rifle, and we're not extrapolating from context that his intent is to use that rifle to obstruct ICE operations, threaten, and potentially murder federal agents. We are not extrapolating that conclusion from the context analytically. We don't need to, because he said it explicitly. I'm here to use my rifle to defend my neighbors from federal agents. That's where the problem lies. Now, we're Americans, and the spirit of the American people is a revolutionary spirit. And absolutely, by all means, from time to time, the tree of liberty must be watered with the blood of tyrants and patriots alike. 100%. And please believe, if I came to hold the true and considered belief that my government had become so corrupt that no legal means were available for me to engage and correct that I no longer had a legitimate right to petition the government for redress of grievances or access to engage in the electoral process that we try to hold sacred in this country, if I were to come to believe that, then I would quite likely be one to take up arms in that cause. But what we have now is we have young men who have had their minds perverted and destroyed by the fallacious, repeated, and intentionally inflammatory rhetoric of a party that is so categorically opposed to the so-called democratic process that they have gone so far as to deny and rig elections. And that's a whole conversation. Maybe that's the next deep dive we do after. We've already got the deep dive planned for tomorrow night, so it won't be tomorrow's. But maybe we do the compare and contrast, because the criticism is that Dems deny and rig, but Republicans denied legitimately. And we know this. When Trump won in 2016, the Democrats screamed, "Oh, it was Russia. Russia stole the election for him." When Biden won in 2020, Republicans screamed, "Oh no, the election was stolen." There's a key difference. We now have incontrovertible evidence that the suspicions we held about the illegitimacy of the 2020 election were absolutely and wholly correct, that the 2020 election was an illegitimate turnover, that it was a stolen election, and that your vote was absolutely corrupted and taken away from you in 2020. We also now have incontrovertible evidence that the entire narrative of the Russia hoax from the 2016 denial was fabricated from whole cloth by the losing party. We have two things that are incontrovertibly proved now. 2020 was stolen, and the Russia claim was a hoax, was an intentional, crafted, directed, fully funded through the Democrat mechanism hoax. It would have been reasonable if that information had been more clear earlier for the J6 event to be an entirely armed event. Understand what I'm saying clearly, though. If on January 5th, 2021, we had not just the incontrovertible evidence of the Russia hoax, but also the incontrovertible evidence, which we have now, but did not have then. That's an important distinction. Then the J6 incident, if it had hypothetically been a fully armed maneuver, would have been morally legitimate in keeping with the founding revolutionary principles of dissolving illegitimate government, dissolving abusive government, and forming a new government to the ends of the service of the people. That wasn't the case. It was not the case that we had that legitimizing material in hand for that particular activity. And that's why J6 was more correct, because it was not an armed uprising, an armed revolution, an armed attack. Unlike what you see out of the modern Democrat, the activities concurrently in modernity, where you see armed hooligans threatening ICE agents, attacking them with their motor vehicles, physically assaulting them in order to obstruct their lawful activities. What you are seeing now is the part of the Civil War where we don't think today, we do not today believe that we are in a civil war. Many people do not believe that we're in a civil war, right? But when the history books when the history books recount the story of today, when they regale the children in 100 years, the beginning of the Civil War, of the Second American Civil War, will be pegged down to somewhere inside of the last 2 years. It'll be somewhere either before or right before or right after the 2024 election. That's where we're going to be. So we'll see. We'll see how that all shakes out. Guys, I do have to get on down the road. I do appreciate you guys tuning in. Okay. Hopefully I'll have more to report on this come Monday. Don Lemon is still at large. Don Lemon is still at large because the warrant for his arrest was denied by a corrupt judge in the jurisdiction, who is apparently married to, I had it pulled up in a tweet. I think Pitt Danny mentioned it, but he's married. The judge is married to a prosecutor or somebody in that administration. Clear interference. And what needs to happen is not only does Don Lemon need to be arrested, but that judge needs to be arrested and removed from the bench, not impeached. That judge does not need to be impeached, right? The Constitution is very clear. A judge will serve in good conduct. So a judge that is engaged in obstruction of justice, abuse of the law, and willfully disregarding the law is not serving in good conduct. That judge does not need to be impeached, and frankly, legally doesn't need to be removed from the bench, because per the Constitution, that judge is no longer a judge. That judge is not a judge as of today. Well, really, as of yesterday. As of the moment that judge engaged in bad behavior, the obstruction of justice, etc., that judge ceased to be a judge, legally speaking. Now, there's process, etc., so we'll see how that works out. But hopefully, we'll be able to report on Monday that Don Lemon was arrested over the weekend. And I'm not holding my breath for this one. Hopefully, we'll see that judge is going to spend the rest of its life in jail too. So we'll see how that all shakes down. Now, in the spirit of the age, as they're arresting these people, these criminals. I've got a song for that, and I'm going to close out on this one, just to remind you guys, it's not just the case that communists aren't people, but also remember, all their martyrs are monsters.
They light the torches and the names, build their altars out of flames. Every sinner's crown of thorns, sold in their culture wars. They preach compassion, sell the rage, turn their prisons into stage. Their saints wear mugshots, their prophets steal. They burn the truth and call it real. Born of lies and pride, they cry for mercy while the innocent die. Oh, their martyrs are monsters built from their sins. Keep the cameras rolling, call that justice again. They sell their stories, never pay the price. Oh, their martyrs are monsters, born from fire and lies, and they worship everyone till the last truth dies. Their temples on broken backs, preach forgiveness while lighting the match. They want a savior, look inside. All their martyrs were monsters before the day they died.